Friday, January 7th, 2010. I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, our triumphant return of questioning and answering. Let's do this.
Holy crap, we're back.
No, we're not.
No? Never mind.
Okay.
It's been a while. We did Geek Nights for so freaking long that it got to the point almost to where I felt I wasn't tired of doing the show, but it was like, time to do the show. It was kind of this job I was doing, especially back when it was still 4 nights a week, every week.
Well, I think another part of the thing is that, we're not like a news show like, say, Twit, where they can just look at the news every week and do a show. Or, we're not a show on one particular topic where we can just, look at the internet and get a feed of things come in. I guess the thing of the day we can do that. But basically for our show, we need to build things up within ourselves in order to create shows.
And after, since 2005 of doing this, some 700 episodes, including the famous I feel like I'd run out of mana, so we had to back up and let the mana recharge slowly, like in those shitty old games.
Well, I'm playing one of those shitty games, that Torchlight game right now. It's one of those. It's basically Diablo, click, click, click.
I'll say this: I almost bought it because it was so cheap. I was like, I'd pay $5 to play a game like that.
Like, it is a stupid clicky game, right? But the price of $5, the production value of this game is obviously at least a $20 game. So it's pretty, right? But the thing is, it's, to make the Diablo Torchlight joke, basically, we did not bring enough mana potions, so we had to use the town portal.
Yeah, well, Mori was like Final Fantasy 1 when I was trying to save up money for a silver sword. So I wouldn't go to that inn until I had like one guy left. And he was almost dead.
Yeah, otherwise, because it took so long to walk back and out again, and you had to waste money on the inn, and it was so much more efficient to stay out in the field as long as possible.
Of course, one time, I remember, it wasn't me, it was my little brother. He was doing something like that, and he stayed out too long. He got hit by some ghouls, they paralyzed his last guy, and he died.
That's the one thing I hate, is like, you stay out there, but you're like, okay, I could go back now, but maybe I could stay out for one more, but on the way back, after I fight one more, will there be a random encounter before I actually get in the town? So you know what you do? You just walk around the town in a circle, so you're always one away from it.
Yep, you walk back and forth, the 2 squares in front of Canaria.
That's right. Welcome to Canaria.
Wow, I haven't read that in a while.
I've been reading it all the time. Snow cones? Okay.
I'm like a year behind on that. But
I
also
actually added some new webcomics.
We had the commute and we had all that stuff. So basically, we were getting to the point to where we needed time off to set our lives straight. And the lives are straight. The Geek Night studio is now in Long Island City, right next to Manhattan. In fact, we can see...
Even though nothing else in this apartment is straight.
Now, I don't have any... You realize our apartment, we have a bed and boxes everywhere. And the only room that is put together is the studio.
My apartment is all nice.
You've been living in yours longer.
It didn't take me that long to get it all set up.
Yeah, well, we got more stuff. It's
That's
bigger.
right.
Plus, I had to build the stupid studio, and now I got to build a new computer and all that business.
I got rid of all my stuff.
But, we always talk about the Late Show. You get, like, the background, and it's always, like, some fake cityscape, or you get, like, a green screen, and you show Manhattan. Well,
or David Letterman, who, like, records his show at, like, 9 in the morning, So it's like... And he's not even, like, high up, so he just puts, like, a fake cityscape behind. We are actually capable of producing a nighttime show with a real cityscape out the window.
In fact, the only reason I can't see Manhattan right now is because I have the shades down.
Yep. Well, actually, from your sitting position, you would not be able to see Manhattan.
I could, were I to put a mirror up.
You could see, like, Queens and maybe some Brooklyn. Yes, a mirror perhaps would allow you to see Manhattans.
Well, yes. However, one thing I'm going to do, get a new boom, and then I'm going to face the other way
the
when we do
guy.
the show. I'm getting a boom.
Get the boom.
Big bada boom.
Uh-huh.
I own a multi-pass now, being a New Yorker.
No, it's more like a single pass. I had the multi-pass before when it was Metro North and Metro Car.
It's still a multi-pass. Metro North train. Not Metro North train.
It doesn't let you get on trains.
It lets me get on subway trains and buses.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's 2 things.
Okay.
Multi.
Sure. Doesn't even let you get on the PATH train or the air train.
It's weird how much I was looking forward to doing the show, to be honest. Like when we first did, I was always like really excited about Geek Nights because I had a lot to say. And as time went on, I don't know, I wasn't as excited about the show as I am right now.
Well, that's because basically you didn't have, it's like a glass half empty, half full situation, right? So basically our glass of stuff to do shows with, our material was running low. So doing a show meant you had to like scrape the bottom of the barrel. But then we just didn't do shows. And it rained and it poured. So now like the cup overfloweth. So you're like, yeah, we'll do a show. Look, I can just sort of hit this water fucking everywhere. It's easy.
What really did it, I think, was there were the pre-Geeknights days when Scott and I had that house in Beacon. We both had jobs and nothing else to do at all. We would come home from work and like watch 2 movies, play video games for like 3 hours, play a board game, and then be bored for an hour.
Yeah, we also filled up the cups mightily with the, 5 years of colleges.
Yep.
So it was like 6 years of cup filling. So, and then we were able to empty 6 years of material in like 4 years of Geeknights. So now we've had like a month and change of filling. I think we'll be all right.
But as Emily pointed out, there were the pre-Geeknights days where we still had the big commutes, but we didn't have anything else to do. Then we had Geeknights and the big commutes. Now we have Geeknights and no big commute. So we basically get those cup days and Geeknights.
Sort of. We definitely are going to be able to...
This last week, the one day I came home and didn't like go shopping or like go to Home Depot or do house stuff, I came home and it's like, I had like 7 hours before I have to go to bed.
I watched all of Master Keaton. I've watched a lot more various anime series.
I watched most of season 2 of Dexter, and I
played
started
a lot
on
of video games.
Votoms.
I read a lot of comic books. Oh, I need the Votoms. Give me.
I'm gonna watch it first.
I need something. I might have to go back to Hokuto no Ken if I don't get something else.
We got to review these shows that we're watching before we forget.
Yeah, basically, I've been able to get a lot, and because I'm going to be saving so much time, no commuting, I will be able to, the cup will not run out as quickly because I'll be able to continuously fill it with things because I have basically 2 hours a day that I did not have before.
Sadly, what am I watching primarily right now? Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex, again.
Uh,
Are you telling me if it was not here right now, you wouldn't just watch it instead of anything else?
It also just so happens that, like we've also got like moving stories. We've got like holiday stories. We've got New York stories now. We've got some, there's a lot. CES is happening right as we record this. So there's a lot of technology, gadget stories. There's all sorts of gaming stuff going on because it was the holiday season. And I think the E3 is coming relatively soon. So it's basically...
crazy stuff has happened. I mean, I joined the Otakon staff. So did Scott. I'm going to the Otakon General Staff meeting like in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm not going.
I got to get a plane ticket.
Yep. A lot of stuff happened. So we got a lot of things to make shows of.
So expect craziness. We're going to do a lot of changes to Geeknights too, but I don't want to get into all that. I don't want to sit here and be like, we're going to add this and take out this. Just listen to the show. You'll see things changing. For the next couple weeks, we might not still do our regular schedule. We might miss an episode, do a double episode as we kind of get back into the swing of things.
Mm-hmm.
We got to review Giant Robo before we forget about it.
Yep, that's another one I watched. Look how much I'm able to do without having to go on a train all day. So much.
Oh, wow, I haven't heard that music in a while.
You didn't hear that music?
No, I didn't. Thanks to the magic of automatic editing and the Scott completely destroying the illusion, no one hears that music but you.
Geeknights is all about destroying illusions, all right? That's like...
Maybe that should be the theme of our TED Talk, or our TEDx Talk. The theme of TEDx, destroying illusions and ruining your childhood.
Yeah, right.
But things of the day. And what could be more fitting because it is actually this weekend. And I know, usually Geeknights, like, maybe half of you guys listen the night it comes out, and then I see, like, this trail for 2 weeks of people downloading the episodes later. I know most of you are listening to this episode on Thursday night, considering how much crap we've been getting about, when are you going to do a show? When's Geeknights coming out? Guns!
What?
I don't know. They didn't say so much about guns.
Dicker jibs.
But... it is this Sunday, so you have time to prepare. It is my second favorite holiday in the world. It is that Improv Everything group, and they are doing No Pants Day.
Oh, do they realize, like, the NFL playoffs start Sunday?
Ride the subway with no pants. Now, there are some very important rules about this thing. One is you have to wear underwear.
I don't know if your underwear counts for him. It's basically a string.
Well, see, I have experience with this in my past. You know how you get away with wearing underwear in public? You wear whitey tighties or tighty whiteys, depending on where you're from, on the bottom, and then you wear boxers over that, thus preventing any chance of peekage or leakage.
Mm-hmm. Leakage?
Well, I only said that because it rhymed.
Yeah, sure. Rim has no leakage. Okay.
But the other rules are you must be willing to take your pants off on public transit in public, and 2, you must be able to do this while maintaining a straight face.
I can do that if it wasn't 0 degrees out. So fucking, oh God, it's so cold.
Oh
God,
my
woman.
God.
Woman?
Woman!
I mean, it's not that woman today, but there are so many days that have passed where we didn't do shows
When we came
where
back-
it was so woman.
When we came back from freaking Albany,
I
and
thought I was in space. I thought I was in double space.
Emily and I came back in Judith and Natalie's car, so they drove us back to our place. We had to park like 3 blocks up, and you probably parked on that street that goes to the bridge, the Queensboro Bridge. There's like
No.
a wind tunnel there. It was not only was it like 1 degree, but there was this solar anti-woman wind coming at us the whole way.
Anti-woman? No, it was pro-woman wind. It was anti-man, anti-boys wind. It froze the boys.
Froze the boys, women
off,
win.
as space does.
My love for you is deathless. I'm bound to you by chains that only omnipotence can break. But shit,
Too
woman.
bad for this omnipotent wind.
But if I go out on Sunday, I will participate in this. I will take at least one picture of
Wait,
myself.
if you go out, no, I think the idea is that you're supposed to get on the subway at 2:00 on purpose.
Depends on how cold it is.
But the thing is, what you can do is you can just get on the subway, right, and ride it like into Manhattan.
Well, I might.
and then time it such that like you're in Manhattan, like downtown, around 2:00.
Well, one thing, I might have to go up to Beacon to deal with my car, in which case, Metro
Oh.
North.
I don't think you want to take your pants off on Metro North.
Why not?
It's a lot more strict.
There's no law against it.
No, I guess not.
There's
but
no rule against either. The rule is
there is a rule about going to jail for 7 years if you fuck with the conductor.
no if you hit the conductor.
Yes, if you hit him with. Well, I guess that's true. I mean, I might have a problem.
Do I hit him with my junk?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I just remembered that your penis is so small that you wouldn't have a problem accidentally hitting the conductor if you took your pants off.
Well,
like
see,
I
the
would.
problem with Metro North is that it really wouldn't fit in those seats. I mean, I'd have to at least get the 3 across, but the train's so crowded.
Well, I would just, basically stay in the 4-seater, both directions at once. Maybe I'd have to open up the vestibule door the whole time, but it'd be all right.
Yeah, the problem is the trains that go up to Beacon on the weekends don't have enough cars.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
I just remember the one time I was on the train. I think I was going to the Bronx for some reason because back when I worked there. And this old man is complaining to the conductor. He's like, I'm an old man. I don't have to pay the peak fare, blah, 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 blah. And the conductor's like, peak train. Everyone's got to pay the peak fare. There's no way around it. Either get off the train or I'm going to throw you off. And the guy's like, you try and throw me off this train. And he raises his cane like he's going to hit the conductor. And the conductor just looks at him and says, go for it.
Man, I wish there was some law that was like, if you hit Scott, you go to jail for 7 years. Because I would just be like, come on, hit me. Yes!
There is
It's
a law.
trap.
If you become a conductor.
I know, maybe. Thing is, conductor, I don't know. Conductor make as much money as I do?
No.
Well, then,
God, no.
And it doesn't look like that fun.
Well,
I
plus
mean, it'd be
there's
fun
seniority.
sometimes, but
Some of the people I find, that one Jamaican guy has fun.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but some of the people obviously do not enjoy their jobs. Probably the
Was
guy
that-
taking the train like from Poughkeepsie to Manhattan at 11 at night on a Sunday.
Was that somehow a thing of the day?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, pants.
Oh, right.
No pants.
So I'm just going to start off, I'm going to ease back into the things of the day. I've got so many great ones piled up, but I did not prepare any of them for the show. So I'd have to go, look at my my backlog. So I'm going to ease into the quality things of the day so as not to overload your senses with something too amazing after, you being, cold turkey on hilariousness for so long.
The secret, just go to College Humor. 90% of
So
it's there.
I'm going to give you a college humor video of the never-ending rooster. It is a rooster that crows for a very long time, and that is it.
I can imagine the other roosters. They're sitting there and they're like, he starts to crow and they're like, who's this guy?
I don't think there are any other roosters. It's pretty much
Well, obviously
all
this
hens.
rooster has eaten the rest of them.
all and all the hens were just sort of like plucka 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 plucka.
Well, they're probably like, shut up. We know.
Yeah.
So we figured we'd start this all off with questions because you guys love these question episodes, and we wanted to try out Google Moderator.
Yeah, so I got a few things to say here, right? So first of all, right, people love the question show, even though I sort of don't think the question show is that great because it gets very meta. Not so good for the new listener, all right? Second of all, in the question shows of the past, we have selected the questions on our own. And the thing when we select the questions, it's a good thing because A, if we don't have a lot of things to say for a question, like we don't have a good answer, we can just skip it. If the question's stupid, we can just skip it without having to make fun of the person who asked it. If there's like one person asking 100 questions, we can just answer one per person so it's spread out evenly across many different questioners.
But at the same time, it causes the kind of echo chamber where I pick all the questions that are like, why do you like Horatio Nelson so much, Rim?
Right. So the thing is, this time we tried to use Google Moderator. Google Moderator is a tool that allows, basically it's...
Mom's a tool.
Right. It's designed for like if you're going to have a conference or a speech or a lecture, and people can ask questions beforehand or during the lecture if they have computers and internet connections or mobile phones or whatever. And then not only can they ask questions, but they can vote questions up or down, that other people have asked instead of being redundant, right? And thus, the questions that most of the people want asked will be the ones that get answered, as opposed to like, the old lineup system where like whoever gets in line first is the person who asked their question. Even if they're a stupid question, everyone goes, boo, sit down, right?
I kind of like the idea maybe at Kineticon. I was thinking about this because we're going to run like the one big panel room. We should set this up and have someone with a laptop who takes all the questions from people during the course of the lecture and just types the good ones in just so we have a nice way to display them on the screen while we answer them.
Yeah, but you still need the voting of the, it only works if the people in the audience are in,
Well, we could use it just as an easy way for the person in the audience to answer the questions.
Yes, regardless, as an experiment, we use this tool as, to control the questioning for this episode. And we got 100 people asking 124 questions with 6,156 votes, which if you think about the math is actually, there should be 12,400 votes if all 100 people voted on every question. So basically, about either half the people voted on all the questions or all the people voted on half the questions or somewhere in between. And we're just going to answer them in order. If they all happen to be from the same person or if they're stupid or whatever, we're just going to have to deal with that as we go until we're done, and that will be this episode.
I do want to give some thanks to the forumite formerly known as Lord Yupa, who doesn't want to use that name, but I feel like I should use it anyway because that's the way we roll.
Isn't that the guy from Nazca? Is Lord Yupa?
I don't remember.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, but he actually went and grabbed all the questions people had typed into other places in the past and got them in here as kind of a set of seed questions.
Oh, so if there is a question from him and it's stupid, it might not actually be his question.
But he did a lot of help here, so yes. I got to give props to him.
And so, I have to warn you in advance, we haven't done this in question episodes of the past, but we may make fun of your question.
Yes. So let's start out right away because a lot
of these questions... We're going to do it in order, skipping nothing. So because everyone can see this page. So if we skip something or do anything, everyone will know. So we cannot avoid.
Unless they continue to vote on them after we do the episode.
I guess. But basically, let's just go in order.
All right, you want to start or shall I?
All right, we just have to read it. It says... it's from Naito, or at least I'm just going to read the name that's there, even though that's not necessarily the person who actually asked. And he says, do you think that your life would have been significantly different if you hadn't met each other? I assume he means me meeting you and vice versa.
Well, if I hadn't met Naito, I wouldn't have decided. It's weird because there's two aspects to that. There's the Rim and Scott meeting, and then there's the whole front row crew coming together.
Yeah, I think that it's actually sort of a self-answering question. It's like, would your life be different if your life was different? Why, yes, it would.
But then again, some things are subtly different. Like, had I, on the morning of January 8th, 2001, had pineapple juice instead of mango juice, probably not going to matter so much in any scope of my life, no matter how far out into the future. Or like, going to RIT versus going to Arizona State would have been a huge difference. Going to RIT and joining the Anime Club and RWAG versus going to RIT and joining the Anime Club, RWAG, and CS House, maybe not as big of a difference.
Yep. So I mean, yeah, I mean, there were other big decisions, and I think that who you meet and such is largely more a consequence than a cause.
But at the same time, even if myself and Scott had not met, but the front row crew had formed either without me or without Scott, I could see the crew being very similar because it seems like the thing that changed all of our lives was really just the formation of the front row crew.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much no matter what, if I had gone to any college, right? I mean, I was already gonna go to a nerdy place. I was gonna meet a bunch of nerds. Worst case scenario, none of those nerds are like really strong enough friends to still be friends after college. So what would have happened? I would have moved somewhere like New York City anyway to get a tech job, or San Francisco or something, and it would have had some nerd friends there.
Yep. It's not a matter of friends. It's a matter of the front row crew. It was, I think, the moment when like all of us as a group, our lives really changed and became like kind of I was about to say like the force of righteousness and justice, but that doesn't really apply.
But I'm saying if you pick the point at which we met as sort of like a branching point in a a probability matrix tree, decision making branching, whatever. If you pick that point as the point of diversion, the resulting life paths that were in front of me were not too dissimilar, short of, me deciding to go and do something crazy, which is within me and has nothing to do with our meeting.
See, I would disagree on one front that the crew, like the front row crew, really, there was that moment like after the first year of college when everyone was like going to go back home for the summer and do all that stuff. We all kind of stood around together and it kind of clicked that the front row crew wasn't just like all the other people at RIT who had like their group of friends that was going to break up after they all left college. The front row crew kind of became a family.
Mm.
And I think that has influenced, if not myself and Scott specifically, then the crew as a whole has influenced the crew as a whole in a kind of self-replicating manner.
Yeah, but that happens if you have any people that you stay close to for a long time. That's what happens.
Yeah, it just seems like it's not the rule out of college is that most people I've known don't seem to maintain a large group of their college friends.
I think those are the people who have maintained their high school friends.
Yeah. Like in Community, the guy with the letter jacket.
Anyway,
so where do you see the show and crew in the next 5 years, taking into account the last 5 years from Vahidblood?
That's I think it's Vampire Hunter D Blood.
I know, but it's spelled Vahidblood.
That's true. I think he's making a false assumption that the last 5 years have an effect on the future 5 years in some way.
They do in the sense that they're predictive. You can see, what trends happen. I mean, what happened in the last 5 years? The crew that had formed, that got really, really close, left RIT and went out into the real world, and we spread out all over the place. And then bit by bit, we all reconverged back on each other. Everyone kind of moved far away and kind of said, this sucks. And we all moved back together.
Let's see. So 5 years. That'll be 2015. I'll probably not moving for a while because I've got I paid a big fee to get the apartment. So I'm going to keep the lease for a bunch of years to get the most out, because the longer I stay, the more I get my money's worth for that fee.
Yep. Unless they build another building directly in front of this building, I don't see myself moving.
Yeah. My job seems to be, pretty good. It's probably not going to fall apart like previous jobs.
Job-wise, it is not out of the realm that I'll be a millionaire by the end of 5 years.
I don't think you'll be a millionaire.
It's not that far out of the realm. I'm pretty much confident that I'll be able to retire by the time I'm 45.
That's that. Well, 45 isn't unreasonable.
Yeah, but there's some decent.
If you're a millionaire in 5 years, then you could retire when you're like 30 something.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. If
I had any number of millions, I would retire immediately.
It is not out of the realm, and it is surprisingly possible. I'm not saying it's that likely, but it is more possible than I would have expected 5 years ago.
I don't know what.
Well, I mean, we got to break it up. The show and the crew. That's like asking about what's your family going to be like in 5 years and what's your job going to be like in 5 years.
It's like, well, you could all decide to send us a bunch of money so we can do this full time if you really want to. It's up to you.
Well, our maintenance costs increased dramatically. This studio space per square foot is a lot more money than the studio space in Beacon.
That is true. I don't know what else is going to change. I mean, I sort of, I really want to start doing some more traveling action. So that will definitely occur.
Yep. Actually, within 5 years, I plan to take 3 to 6 months off of work on sabbatical and go on some crazy journey.
The convention schedule will probably sort of go into some holding pattern doing less, more powerful.
We pretty much
stuff.
solidified. We're not adding any conventions except for possibly tech and gaming conventions that are really easy to do.
I think the most difference that's going to be in the next 5 years is that because I'm not commuting, there's going to be a lot less shit talking, and I'm going to make a lot of things, and maybe there is a small probability, very small, that one of those things could, lead down an unexpected path, But that's really, what else is going to happen short of I don't know, a lottery win because I don't buy tickets. I mean, so how's that going to happen?
Well, I mean, in terms of the crew.
I can find a lottery ticket on the ground that's already a winner.
In the last 5 years, the crew kind of ballooned out and then came back together. And just recently, especially, more and more of the front row crew has been centering around New York City. We've had a bunch of people. Like, we had friends in D.C. who moved up to Brooklyn. We had friends in the South who moved out to White Plains. Everyone's kind of converging. New York City is pretty much the center of the crew right now. And then we have a couple people in Albany, a couple people in Philly. But it's all like the radius is New York City. And I foresee it getting closer and closer as opposed to further and further.
Okay, the next question. Is it weird not living together anymore? Miss anything?
I don't miss having a bathroom entirely covered in pubic hair.
I don't miss, having all hair absolutely everywhere.
I don't miss pee on the floor.
You're the one who peed on the floor.
Whose apartment has pee on the floor?
First of all, my apartment does not have pee on the floor.
Smells like it does.
And second of all, I would like to point out, right, that my apartment had no pee on the floor. And then you stayed over like 2 times, and then there was pee on the floor, and I cleaned it.
I thought you just said there was no pee on the floor.
I cleaned it, and there has not been pee on the floor since you have been there. You came and peed on my floor.
See, you say that, but how come there's no pee on my floor?
How come there is no pee on my floor since I cleaned it, and I've been the only one there? It is only when you were there that pee was deposited on the floor.
I don't believe you. We'll have to go to your apartment and look at the pee.
I cleaned it, and there is no pee anywhere.
Let's wait a week and see if the pee comes back.
I cleaned it like a week ago. It's been a week already. I cleaned it 2 weeks ago.
Honestly, I don't think you guys understand. We live a couple of subway stops away from each other. We're basically next door neighbors.
The major difference is that when I see something awesome on the internet, I have no one to tell immediately.
Yep. And
so I can't just walk into the other room and be like, hey, check out this funny video.
Scott, you never walked into the other room. I'd be working on my computer and I hear, hey, Rim, blah, 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 see, yes, blah, blah, Rim. Or even better, I'd be sitting there and I hear, ha, 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 until I finally yell, what's so funny?
Oh, this funny thing that you must see immediately and stop doing whatever you are doing.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why it took so long to edit the show back in the day. And, like, as soon as we stopped the show, I'd start to edit. I'm listening to the show, and then next to me I have Scott basically doing another show.
Yep.
I mean, it's not that different. It's kind of like we live in this gigantic apartment building where we're like in the it takes almost no time for me to go to Scott's place or Scott to go to our place.
Mm-hmm. That's it. It's not.
Yeah, it's really I don't know. It's city living. It's kind of just this modular lifestyle.
Yeah.
What do you think are your greatest personal weaknesses, and how have they manifested? By the way, that previous question was Viga, and this question is from Nuri.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm really just too awesome, and that has really prevented me from being not as awesome as I should be.
Yeah, I'm just too smart for my own good, so, it's just...
Actually, I was thinking about this question, and it actually gave me quite a bit of insight into all my successes by looking at them in the light of weaknesses, like a personal weakness. Because I do have 2 very, very important weaknesses. Scott has 1, peeing on the floor. But weakness the first.
Yeah, weakness number 1. Rim's pee is my floor is very. Rim's pee is super effective against my bathroom floor.
It's +1 against Scott's floor.
Yeah.
But my one weakness I have, and this is the only one that's detrimental to me, is that I'm incredibly dangerously absent-minded. Like, I will be sitting there and I'll be like, oh, I have to pay this bill, and then I will immediately forget. Like, I'm looking at my credit card
Rim,
page.
here is a check. Mail this. Oh, yeah, I'll just hide it under the stairs, under a pile of crap, and then the landlord will come and ask where the rent is, and Rim will say he mailed it when he clearly did not.
Or I'll be like, yeah, I'll build that e-commerce by next week.
Yeah, by never.
Yeah. I just forget. I forget everything. I leave stuff everywhere and I forget everything.
You also don't do simple things. Like, there'll be something that will take 2 seconds, and Rim I'll say, do it now. No.
Thing is, half
Do
the
it
time-
now. No, it takes 2 seconds. Do it now.
Every
no.
time Scott tells me to do something that he says is simple, it's always something really annoying.
Google, it'll always be like
or-
a Google search.
Or something I don't care about and I have no intention of doing.
Do it anyway.
Scott will be like, Rim, you got to Google this article and read it. And I'm like, no,
Do it right now.
I don't care. Or I got to point out, half the time when you do that, it's because I'm editing the show. I'm listening in my headphones to the show to find the part where I cough, and in my other ear I hear Rim blah 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 blah. It'll take 2 seconds, blah. And then I keep. Don't you notice I keep rewinding what I'm doing because I can't hear it?
Yeah, just pause. Push the pause button. Open up the other tab window.
But this made me realize something interesting because my other biggest weakness is that I procrastinate on everything until the last possible second. I don't do shit until someone has a gun to my head. But I realized when I really thought about it that,
You don't procrastinate at work.
yeah, I do.
I do.
Yeah, good God. I procrastinate like crazy at work. And I'm always working on stuff, but like I don't work on any particular thing until like 5 minutes before it's due or before it's becoming a problem.
Oh, good job.
But it's more that in life, I always defer decisions till the last possible minute. And I realized that this has very much given me the ability to capitalize on circumstance in a huge degree because I never play my hand. My hand is always kind of in my pocket and I forget about it. And then suddenly someone's like, Ram, you got to play a card. I'm like, oh, shit. But by then, everyone else has played their cards and I just play the perfect card.
So meanwhile, the oh shit on the e-commerce was like 6 months ago. What the fuck? Where is it?
Oh, that didn't benefit me in any way.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm saying that all of my great successes have come out of the fact that I deferred decisions to a dangerous degree, and as a result was able to capitalize on crazy circumstance that came up that I could not have capitalized on had I been more proactive and done something.
So not doing not doing the e-commerce, what benefit did you
Oh, that
get?
didn't benefit me. I'm saying it's a weakness because it does not often benefit me. However, the few times it has benefited me, it has benefited me in ways that have significantly altered my life for the better. It's this weird situation where a weakness kind of made me who I am today, made everything awesome, but makes a lot of non-important things somewhat more problematic.
I think my weakness is that if
Silver,
fungus,
I don't know.
Dragon's Bane. No. Is that if someone tells me to do something, I don't want to do it. Like, even if I would have done it anyway, like if I'm going to in the grocery store and I'm going to buy Honey Nut Cheerio and someone says, Scott, you should totally get Honey Nut Cheerios because of blah. No, I don't want to get them. I just won't get them just because someone told me to.
I can see
it makes
that.
me not want to do it. And then, right, like if I come back to get like I actually did want the Honey Nut Cheerios. If I come back and get the next day to get the Honey Nut Cheerios, I have to hide the Honey Nut Cheerios so they don't see that I got them. Right? I can't do anything that someone tells me to do. And actually,
Scott, don't give me $5.
it's not going to happen. Because now there's nobody in my apartment, I can do things that people told me to do that I could not do when they were always watching.
Huh. I kind of feel that a little bit. There's this, I guess I can see that weakness. Like, I can understand it. It's kind of this, whenever someone gives me advice or tells me to do something, even if it's good advice, I think for a second, how stupid am I that I didn't think to do this? Then I think, they're not better than me.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just I don't want to do what anyone tells me to do.
At all?
No.
Even if it's really good advice?
I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad advice.
So what are
if someone tells me to do it, I don't want to do it.
So what are you going to do if you ever want to go to like a financial advisor?
That's a weird thing. It's like if I'm at work, I have no problem doing what I'm told to do.
Maybe because they're paying you?
I think it's just, if I don't know what it is, but if someone tells me what to do, it's weird. It's like, if someone asked me to do something, I might say yes, I might say no. But if someone tells me what to do, I just don't want to do it.
Oh, I also have all the obvious weaknesses, bullets, knives, poison.
Boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, not so much. I would say that weakness boils down to cute art girls.
Mm-hmm.
I have a desperate weakness for cute art girls.
All right.
The cuter or arter they are.
Did I do the last one or did you?
I did.
All right.
Scott, take the next question.
There is always of talk. Okay, Xandro is the asker of this question. Xandro, your grammar is fail.
Grammar, your fail is.
There is always of talk of smart people on the show. What is your definition of smart? Someone who is intelligent and thinks for themselves, or someone who agrees with you? Neither.
Well, I would
My-
say, you want to go first?
Yes, there are many things which make a smart person, but I think the number one thing that makes a smart person is a display of critical thinking ability. If someone can display, and prove and demonstrate that they are capable of critical thinking, then they are well on the road to being a smart person. And if they do not have that, odds are very high they are not what I would consider a smart person.
I'll back it up to a slightly more universal statement, I'd say. I believe very strongly that the definition of intelligent people is that if you have a group of people, a large group of people, and they all have access to the same information on a given problem, and they all agree on the same high-level goals related to whatever the problem is, that the intelligent people will all agree with each other on the path forward. Or they will disagree not on the best way to achieve the goal, but they will disagree on whether or not the goal should be achieved in the first place. I guess to boil it down, if everyone is equally informed and equally willing to critically think and examine data and willing to be unbiased, then all intelligent people will generally agree on most things.
Yeah, but I mean, you could put a bunch of stupid people in a room and they might all agree on something that's totally wrong.
Yeah, but I'm saying that...
So that's not a very good measurement at all.
I didn't say it was a measurement. I said it's a state. I feel that intelligent people will agree.
So the definition of a smart person is someone who agrees? That's not really my definition of a smart person is at the very least, a smart person displays, very strong critical thinking
But what
abilities.
is critical thinking? I mean, really it just comes down to...
The ability to think critically?
Is there a goal? If there is a goal, are you able to understand the information that exists and able to make an intelligent decision regarding the achievement of said goal?
Yeah, but it's not all. But not everything in the world is like achieving a goal, or looking at information and coming up with an answer to something. A lot of times it's
Isn't it though?
No, a lot of times.
Name a situation where that isn't.
Well, because you don't have information. Sometimes it's the ability to observe and acquire information. A lot of people will look at something like how many people sit in front of a computer, right? And I also look at that computer and they don't know they can't figure out the problem, but I can. And why? Because I read the screen and they don't. We have the same information available to us. They just don't read it. Right? So they lack, it's not about making a decision based upon information. They don't even have the.
But they have made a decision in that case. The decision they've made is that information has been presented to them that is pretty verifiable and objective, or at least it is information that everyone else who is solving the problem or everyone else who is in the same situation also receives, and they choose to ignore this extant information, thereby belying their own intelligence.
Whatever. You're getting, I don't know. Anyway. Yeah,
I'm getting
it's
what?
about critical thinking ability. If someone can figure something out, then if they have figuring out abilities, then they are probably smart.
But I just, as an aside, I do feel that in
It
general,
has nothing to do with like the amount of knowledge you have in your brain, or what particular area that knowledge may or may not be in, or anything like that. It's your ability, your potential to figure things out when they are in front of you.
Yep. So what is one habit you wish to break from Kate Monster? I stopped looking at the internet all the time. That was my only one, really.
I also don't look at the internet all the time. A habit.
I don't have that many habits. I mean,
Habit.
I've tried to have more habits, like wearing blazers every day instead of almost every day.
A habit. I would like to, when I do my laundry, I don't put the clothes away soon enough. And then when if I do put the clothes away and the floor is clean, I'll start putting all the clothes in the basket, but then I'll put them on the floor. And right now, basically my room is just, it happens every time, and every time I try not to do it and I end up doing it anyway. Like right now, my room is basically clothes all over the floor. I don't know what's dirty. I don't know what's clean.
Actually, the one thing I'll do is whenever I'm like dealing with a bunch of papers to file or something, or I've got like now when I was building all the cables into this desk, I will often find a problem that could be solved right now, but will require a lot of annoying and tedious work. Or can be solved 80% of the way, shittily, in like 2 seconds. I will always go with the 80% 2-second solution. Always. And I'll always say to myself, someday I'll go with the long and tedious solution, and it never happens. Right now, I basically have a a nest of cables behind this desk.
Yeah, I've got to redo some wires behind my TV a little bit.
I'm going to fix that once everything's situated. Wire channels.
Yep.
Wire channels and wire bags.
I'm getting a speedway. I'm going to put the 2 speakers behind and get the whole thing going on.
All right.
What is the most offensive thing you've
Two
ever
girls, one cup.
I didn't see 2 girls, 1 cup. But I guess Tub Girl is the most offensive thing I've seen. But it's like, it's not offensive in that like, oh, I am offended. It's offensive as in like, it offends my senses. Like, it makes me nauseous.
Well, we really, what is the most offensive thing you've ever seen in any medium? That was from Giafino, by the way.
That was in the, Tub Girls in the medium of photography, right? So,
Well, I guess it's you have to separate between, there's like Tub Girl goatsy offensive, and then there's like guy murdering babies offensive. And
I've never seen. It says, have you ever seen? I've never seen. I'm sure it exists. I've never seen it.
I've seen
so
things
it
like
doesn't
that.
answer the question, which
I've
is,
seen
have you ever seen?
I have 2 completely separate scales in my head for offensive. There's actually offensive on the grounds that someone is doing great harm, and offensive on the grounds that is totally disgusting.
Yeah.
Totally disgusting is 2 girls, 1 cup, which, I had seen all the gross stuff on the internet forever.
Yeah, I'd seen Rotten.com even.
Yeah, but I went into 2 girls, 1 cup thinking, why is everyone making a big deal about this? Tub Girl, what could be grosser than that without actually hurting someone? And I don't even, to this day, nothing has... 2 girls, 1 cup was an order of magnitude more vile than I could have possibly expected, even knowing it was a shampoo.
Wasn't there that other video that came out shortly after that people were saying was even worse that I didn't watch either?
I don't know.
Yeah, anyway.
That's pretty much it. If you could take over a local high school, what would be the first policy change you would implement and why? From Kate Monster.
All right. I'm sure this is one of those things where you could do a whole show.
You know what I would
on it.
do? If possible, I would get Bill Gates. I would say, Bill Gates, take over the school.
That's a good move. I think basically, regardless of any other policies, the number one priorities would be to make failing a possibility, right? Forget that, everyone left behind. If you suck, you should fail. And if you're awesome, you should get an A. So we need to have, the grading needs to be on, and school should be fucking hard, really hard.
Well,
and
the philosophy...
I would segregate the school based on, I'd put the smart kids in a smart class and the dumb kids in a dumb class.
Well, I'll say this. My high school did that. My high school was heavily segregated based on ability. There were even separate wings depending on how good at, academics you were. And what they did is the people who did very poorly were pushed more and more toward vocational things, or they had interventions and everything. And like the really, really smart kids had classes of like 4 people taking really advanced stuff. Like I took more math and science in high school than RIT even offered outside of like the master's programs in those things.
Yeah, you'd have to like take, if you wanted to learn more chemistry, you'd have to be a chemistry major.
But the segregation like that, really my philosophy is that you need to set the bar such that no one ever gets a perfect score in anything. Because if anyone in any class ever gets a perfect score on any assignment, that means that there was not enough granularity. There was no room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And like all my AP classes, the average score I got in AP Bio was about 31% on a test.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal was always try to get better. And, when I finally went and we took the AP test, everyone in that class got a 5 because the AP test was laughable compared to what we were doing in class.
Yep. The other thing is that I would make, I would sort of, it's a high school, right? So the thing is in high school that college is basically sort of like assumed to be like 13th grade at this point in the United States, right? But really, I think that's kind of BS. And, you only really need to go to college if, you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, something that needs a college, of many years of extra learning.
I would push the trade schools a lot more and at least point out to people it doesn't suck to be a plumber.
Right. I would basically point out to everyone, there's all sorts of jobs possibilities out there in the world that no one ever tells you.
I would fire every guidance counselor.
For sure.
No guidance counselor in my entire life ever told me that being a race car driver or a welder or any of that stuff was even a possibility.
Yeah, there's all these jobs out in the world that no one even, I could have, if someone would have told me in high school, you could be like a sailor on, rich people's yachts, or a juggler on a cruise ship, or anything.
Or a print major. Remember our friend who went into the printing program at RIT and like had crazy money from his co-ops, moved to Florida. He was doing real well.
There's all sorts of jobs out in the world, right? And the career centers at high schools are terrible at, like teaching kids about all the creative possibilities of things that you can do with the rest of your life that are totally awesome.
Or
And
just-
I think that is a large reason that people are very dissatisfied with their jobs, because everyone ends up in the office job. Sit in a desk all day. And there are plenty of big money or, good money jobs out there that are not sit at a desk all day. And if I had known better when I was in high school, even though I'd like computers a whole lot, I might have been doing something else computery.
You would have at least tried to be a race car driver.
Oh, I could have been doing computers for a race car.
Oh,
right?
man, imagine being the IT guy for
look,
like
at
a Formula One team.
At CES today, they made big announcements for like the computer, like the Ford Sync stuff that's in all the Ford vehicles you can get. I could have been making that instead of making websites, right? Come on.
But the real key was segregation. If you're going to segregate students based on ability, you've really got to set it up to where you challenge the kids who do well and you give help to the kids who don't do well. Like failing should be, it sucks you failed. We got to figure out either what to do that will let you pass on your own without just giving everyone a B, or, all right, you can't pass. Let's figure out what kind of jobs you can do.
Gas station, And if that's the best, that's the other thing, is that success is doing the best of your ability, and it's just the reality that people have different abilities. That's just the way the world is. So if the best that you can do is gas station, and you get to gas station like, attendant, hell's yes. Awesome for you. That is succeeding.
So what
that
I would
should
do-
not be like looked down upon. Now, if you could do a lot better than gas station, but you work in one because you're a sad, lazy sack who's all drugged up and drinking 40s or whatever, then that should be looked down upon. And that's what we need to teach people.
Specifically, I think we can't get into all the details. I think a good way to go about the segregation, because they're all the way, no matter what you do, someone will fall through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of society is that it is impossible to do anything that doesn't have some edge situation where someone's going to fall through the cracks on some end of the spectrum.
Of course.
So what you do is you do standardized testing.
It's like if you try to arrest all the robbers, you're going to you can either arrest all the robbers, but you'll accidentally arrest some non-robbers. Or you can guarantee that you won't arrest any non-robbers, but then some robbers are going to go free. You can't perfectly get all the robbers and not get any of the non-robbers. It cannot happen.
So you need
There is no way.
standardized tests across all curriculum and standardized requirements for each grade. Like 11th grade, to pass it, to graduate, you need to meet all of these requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a standardized test. However, if you fail that test, you have one recourse, which is to go to an interview at the school instead. Or maybe, get experts that do these interviews and have like a magnet school. And if you want to challenge the fact that you failed, other than just taking the year again or retesting or whatever, you have to go to the center, and intelligent, smart people, psychologists, educators, people who are trained, interview you and determine if either you are smart but you screwed up the test, you are smart but you have a problem that prevented you from doing the test, or you aren't capable of that grade and you have to go back.
I think just in general, though, it's like schools in the U.S., sort of have been following this formula and this curriculum, and there hasn't been a lot of differentiation.
Well, grades are determined by age, not by ability.
That too, but it's like I can come up with a lot of different systems that I think would be better than what we have now, but really all we need to do is experiment. Just try different shit all the time and see what works. And you might say, oh, you experimented on my kid and now he's stupid because you put him in a experimental thing that was, bad. Well, it's like, it's the greater good, because your kid screwed up. We know not to ever try that method of education again. And we're trying some other things with other people. And, that's how it's going to be.
But I guess my point was just, if you're going to do any sort of segregation, a smart way to go about it is two-factor authentication, two-factor segregation. There's the broad brush factor, the standardized test. But then you have to have a more fine-grained instrument that you only use on the people who appear to have been caught by the edge conditions in the standardized test.
That can help alleviate some of the...
And there's and maybe even a third factor, but you can't do that forever. Someone's always going to fall through the cracks. That's just life.
All right. On the show, one of you mentioned that there are things worth fighting for in the context of an army. What are some of those things that you believe should be fought for? I would join the army if it was like World War II.
Well, I would fighting against genocide, fighting against war.
Yeah, I mean, if I, see, that's the only reason that I did not join any sort of military establishment, because like if I was in the Air Force or something, I mean, I have really good eyesight. I would have been probably pretty good at like flying a plane.
You'd
or
have to do a
working
push-up.
Yeah, the thing is, if I joined the Army, they would have made me do a push-up, and I believe that if I had done it at the time,
Though there is this problem
I
where
would have been, if I had done it then, I would be push-upping now.
the military in the United States, just because of the environment, is very hostile to basically what is the modern culture of tech people.
Yeah, and
I mean,
the other
long-haired hippie dudes doing
Yes.
code are never going to join the military, no matter how strongly they believe in something.
Yes, the other thing is that in the military, right, there's always a risk of, going back to my weakness, they tell you what to do. Right? That's pretty much how it works, right? If I could join the military, but choose what in which manner I would serve, and there was no risk of me serving in a manner that I did not wish to serve, I would totally do it, because I could just be like, oh, there's a genocide in Rwanda. You want me to go help? Yes.
Or like,
there's a war in Iraq. Yeah, I'm just not going. Sorry.
Or Scott, super future cyber, would you be a member of Section 9?
Depends, and I would,
could be Ishikawa.
if I was, I would decide, what I would do on a mission by mission basis based on my personal feelings, and if I decided, yes, I will do this, I would do it to the best of my, of course that doesn't work. A military needs mindless drones who will follow orders to exactly with no,
But
back talk.
Special Forces needs people who will use initiative and ingenuity to solve problems at their own discretion.
Yes. See, I'm willing to use ingenuity to solve problems at my own discretion if I want to. If I don't want, if I don't want to do what you want me to do, you might say, there's a bad guy in that building, go get him. I'm like, no, I agree with that bad guy. Fuck you. I'm going to leave him alone. And then they're not going to be very happy with me. But if there was a bad guy in the building, I would say absolutely yes. And I would get that guy. So I would be the master. I would get him so fast.
Not the professional?
No.
One area, one way to get me to like pretty much add my services and add my abilities to some sort of large military force in some capacity. And I hate to use an anime reference, but if the United Nations or somebody like it went Gundam 00, the whole, the idea that peacekeeping forces, where there's a multinational body that no matter what it was, if ever there was a militarized armed conflict, the peacekeepers basically invaded and instilled martial law and were hostile toward any belligerents in the theater and basically just prevented any actual war from happening until the situation could be resolved.
Yeah. I mean, basically what it comes down to is if there is something that is blatant and obvious, evil to combat, like right now, basically all the evils in the world are sort of ambiguous and depend on your point of view, and, one person's done wrong, one person's done right, at least most of the, terrorism type evils, but there are, if there was something that was just blatant and obvious, like those
Nazis.
are bad guys, right? Like, one country invades another country and just starts killing everyone and drops nukes and spreads poison gas or something. It's like, well, those are obviously bad guys. I will gladly go and shoot them,
Of course, part of the problem is that we have the situation where the wars that have been like that, like between Iraq and Iran, we kind of made that happen.
Because we live in the U.S., the whole situation with anything involving military is completely different.
We basically live
at any other point in time in history in any other country.
We basically live in the nation that is the evil team from the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's the problem.
From Zarlak, can religion and ritual still be meaningful and worthwhile even while embracing an atheist theology? There's no such thing as atheist theology. Anyway, do you have your own rituals, either from established religion or of your own creation?
Well, I think the problem is that ritual has many definitions, right?
I mean, I have the ritual of wine, but the ritual of wine is practical. I pull the cork out. I examine it to see if the wine is rotten. I pour it in a little glass. I look at it to see if it's rotten. I sniff it to see if it's poison. I take a sip to see if it's poison. It's practical. It's the same thing with tea.
Yes, rituals are not necessarily supernatural, right? Like you could have a secret handshake with someone. It's just a ritual. But it's not supernatural or magical or religious in any way. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that sort of ritual.
Except for the fact that I dislike being automatic in my life. Whenever anything is happening and I'm doing it automatically, I always want to be aware of it so that I can stop it and at least do whatever
Yes.
I'm doing consciously.
You know, but there can be like intentional traditional rituals. Like we can intentionally have a Festivus pole as a ritual that or a tradition, right? It has nothing to do with any religion or supernatural, mysticism or anything.
Well, we have Yell at the Sky Day that really only the front row crew and only a small portion of that celebrates.
Yes. But, but he says, can religion still be meaningful?
Nope.
No, religion is not meaningful. Period.
Because everything that religion has to offer, anything that a theological, non-evidence-based belief has, you can have the exact same ritual, the exact same meaning, the exact same everything without the supernatural belief.
Yes.
That's it.
That's easy. Right.
Scott?
What methods do you use to deal with ignorant people when the situation calls for such action?
There are only 3 ways to react to ignorant people, and they scale from left to right. On the far left is I guess they could go from right to left.
Complete avoidance.
Which is what most people do, the polite avoidance. You're out at a cocktail party and one of your coworkers says, blah, 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 my chiropractor. And you smile and nod because you're totally lame and you're totally avoiding confrontation and sacrificing all your ideals because you're a pussy.
Mm-hmm.
The next level of escalation is the fake. You pretend to agree. You are very nice, very accommodating. But you're only doing this in order to work a long-term goal of tricking them or forcing them to change their beliefs. Like, yeah, chiropractor, blah, blah, blah. And then you start...
Usually the end result of doing this is that they might say, yeah, chiropractor might be BS, but then they don't change their behaviors in any way whatsoever.
Yep.
They keep going.
The only other answer at this point is Buzz Aldrining.
Yes.
And I honestly, I used to be the kind of person who would go out of my way to manipulate people like this to try to set them right. And it took a lot of effort, and it worked occasionally. And maybe I'm just tired. It takes too much effort to manipulate people to that degree. I just Buzz Aldrin. I can't deal with people like that anymore.
Yeah.
At all.
Basically, I sort of realized, James Randi he says that basically it's hopeless. You cannot, once someone is, completely ignorant and stupid, that's it. You're never going to, bring them back. They, like I said before, what is smart people? Smart people is people who have critical thinking abilities. Well, if someone's ignorant and they don't have critical thinking abilities, there are no words that you can say.
The worst problem there are people who are not ignorant, who are very well informed, and yet who lack critical thinking.
Yes.
Those are the most dangerous people because they can do
very dangerous.
very bad and very evil things, and yet they can do it in a very efficient manner.
Yes. But, if somebody, doesn't have critical thinking abilities, you basically are it's impossible to change their mind there's no combination of words in any language that you could say to them to change their mind.
Well, pummelepathy, left
Right.
fist and right fist can work to a degree.
But that doesn't, but that's not going to change their mind. That's just going to, make them suffer the consequences.
Truth.
The full life
or
consequences. The full life consequences. But so, it's basically like I just basically label the person as, remember, this is one of those people who is completely stupid.
Oh my God, I can't
And then
wait.
I just have nothing to do with them anymore.
And you realize in our lifetime, the Google goggles are going to get to the point to where in my glasses, I can just have tags on people. And I will be able to see when other people have tagged people as woo-woo.
Ooh.
And I will know.
Awesome. Yes.
Oh my God, we'll have Google moderator for people.
That's so great.
Oh my God, I want this now.
Oh, yes. All right.
Especially if you only...
Because then you can go down the street and say, there's an awesome person. Hey, what's up?
We got to do a whole show on augmented reality. Oh my God, don't let us forget, kids, because I'll forget. We already talked about that.
Right.
But I just Buzz Aldrin people left and right, and there's nothing... Have you ever gone back into the deepest depths of the Geeknights archives and listened to episodes to see how your opinions on various topics and issues have changed ever since starting the show? From Aaron in Alberta, which doesn't suck, but Calgary does.
No.
I plan to.
Yeah.
Actually, we have a whole plan. Crab People episodes we can do is pick an old episode we did a long time ago, both listen to it, and then redo that show.
That is double meta. Let's not do that.
Or better. No, think about how interesting. If we do the same show again without listening to that show, and then just tell the listeners, we did the show again, see if our opinions have changed. We didn't listen to the previous one.
Yeah, the amount of Geek Nights episodes that I've listened to in full is a very small number for a very short period of time. I basically never listened because when I did listen for that short period of time, basically all it did was make me remember everything that I already said and heard. So there was really no point.
I don't listen at all, even when I edit. There's no reason to. But I would like to take old episodes and revisit them without listening And then maybe later I might listen to the two for my own edification. Like, wow, I really changed my opinion back there. And I
Yes.
can't figure out when that opinion changed.
Yes, but the question was, have you ever? And the answer is no.
Nope.
Nope.
However, I have listened to, in recent memory, at least one of the
That's
those episodes unlistenable. Good fucking God.
The next question: do you have any friends who aren't geeks?
No.
Mm,
Because I would say that those people are acquaintances, and there's levels of acquaintance, but they have not crossed the line into friend. Never mind family, like the crew has.
yeah, I mean, I guess they're, the closest are, I think the people that I would count as friends who aren't geeks are people who are like friends of my family, right? So it's like, my mom, there's someone I call like Aunt Debbie, right? But she's not actually my aunt by any, she's just like my mom's best friend since my mom was in
Well, you know what that is?
school, right?
There's-
so her, Debbie's family, her husband and her children are friends with my family, so they're my friends, and they're not all nerds.
Well, here's how that works. Think
know,
about
and
it.
there's a few-
There are friends by choice. By definition, friends are by choice, unless you can't deal with leaving high school and you join frats and things just to be forced into friendships, as opposed to finding friends on your own. But with family, there is family by choice. Front Row Crew is a self-selected sample of family by choice. There is also family by birth. And while family by birth is a very strong bond, as a result, there are friends through family by birth.
Yes, but the thing is, friends through family by birth are, if they're not blood relatives, right? These are people who are friends by choice. But basically, what it is my whole family by birth chooses another whole family by birth as friends. It just so happens that it happens to be like a group of people and another group of people. So imagine if like the Front Row Crew saw another Front Row Crew and decided that we should be friends with that Front Row Crew, that back row crew.
Yeah.
We as a group decide. So, the family that I was born into decided as a group that we would befriend this family and this family and this
But you don't
family.
periodically have a family convention and vote on whether or not you're still friends with these people.
No, but there are other families that my family that I grew up with was friends with, and those people are my friends.
I guess I'll put
and
it this
not
way.
all of them are geeks. However, it's actually surprising how many of those people are at least partially geeky. There's model railroad people in these families. There's a lot of sports geeks in these families. There's like cartoon watching geeks in these families.
I'll
There's
put it this way.
crafty people doing all sorts of Etsy kind of stuff in these families.
I do not regularly associate in any way with anyone who's not a geek on purpose.
Yeah.
What was your favorite moment at a convention?
I don't know.
I might have to go all the way back to 2002, only because while I've had probably more fun actual moments than this moment, this is one of those moments that kind of solidified the legend of Krauser for me. This is back when I went to basically, I think I've told the story on the show, but we have a lot of new listeners. Now I'll tell the shortened version. Dubbed this, old webcomic, friend of ours, Scott Johnson, did along with Luke Morgan. And they were invited to stay in a room with a bunch of their readers at Anime Central, which was in Chicago. I happen to own a car.
Oh, this is the moment you're going to pick?
That's the moment I'm going to pick. So those two guys are like, hey, Rim, you want to go to Chicago? And I was like, for the whoring and the drinking? No, I was like, let's go. So we get in my car.
Is what you went for.
And we had this, there's this whole crazy adventure of all the things that happen on
The
this
car
trip.
breaking down?
Yep. Driving into Indiana and then up into Michigan and then paying with a bad check to get back on the road because we were out of money. Oh my God. So we get there and this scary looking nerdy guy kind of comes down. He's like, oh my God, it's Rim, Scott, and Luke. Welcome. Here,
No, Scott Johnson, not Scott Rubin.
Yes, different Scott. Scott Rubin didn't come to this convention.
Nope.
I'll take you up to the room. Everyone's waiting to meet you. And we're like, fuck. What are we getting ourselves into? He takes us up and he goes over to the presidential suite, opens the door, and we see so many cute cosplay girls in various states of undress as they finish sewing all their enormous and beautiful costumes.
And Rim was single at the time?
I was single at the time, and Luke and Scott Johnson, we all look at each other, and we look at this kid, and he's like the only guy staying in the room other than us. And we look at all these girls, and one thing leads to another, and we see there's a bar, like a wet bar in the room. So we look at each other, and Luke says to the girl who's running the room, who's this cute para girl, oh man, you have a bar? Well, hell, we came every time we go to conventions. This is one of the first conventions I ever went to, by the way. We run these parties. We have all the stuff in the car. Non-alcoholic bar, it's great. You want us to run our party for your room. And he looks at me and I'm like, yeah, we got this drink list, like the Southern Belle Dandy, and it's really cool. And then she's like, oh, that'd be awesome. You guys are so cool. Oh my God. So we're like, yeah, let's go get the stuff. We got to the car and we're like, all right, the fuck are we going to do now? We found a grocery store and an epicness ensued. I'll leave it at that. That was probably the greatest moment at a con ever just because it was the first moment in the Legend of Rimser.
The Legend of Rimser. That's the greatest moment at a convention. You know, it's weird because, like, there are things that happen at conventions, and it's like, you know, what scale of greatness? I mean, you have playing Settlers with hooker midgets. That you can't get a better story than that,
nope.
Right?
You also have the first time you walk into the Otakon dealer's room and you just don't know what to do about it.
You know, you've got that, you know, like amazing concert, be it Larkin Ciel or TMR or whoever you want, right? Or Jonathan Colton or something, right? And, you know, what can you put above that greatest event at a convention?
You've got Excite Bike 2 at PAX.
Right. You've got like Excite Bike Verse being revealed, right? And then you've got stuff like, you know, just playing a really awesome game of Via Paletti or something, or playing Inheritance with Luke Crane, you know, discovering the Burning Wheel or something like that. That was at a convention, right?
We have so many crazy conventions.
There is not. I don't think there is one that stands out like above all the others. Like, oh, there are just like, you know, many.
The thing I can say about that is just that we'll never get sick of conventions, especially now that we don't go to just anime conventions. But conventions are like geek cities that just form periodically. And
if we had a geek city, then we wouldn't need conventions.
No, and New York City is the closest thing that we're going to get.
Let's not talk about this because I think that's a question coming up.
Yeah, though we got to stop soon. I don't know if we'll get to it.
All right, well, it's only 3 away. Anyway, will you ever have a roundtable discussion on anything with the FRC? Parentheses, this is overdue in the age of Skype. Right after we have e-commerce.
Almost no one we know in the front row crew has decent microphones or anything at home, so they'll sound more ass than even Scott did over Skype, for one. And 2, it's like herding cats.
Yeah, it's also, editing it is like herding double cats.
Pretty much the way we're going to handle...
Because people talking over each other, interrupting and skipping in and...
Yeah, the way we're going to handle that is whenever we have multiple people on the show, we're either going to Skype in people who we know have like radio show skills already, or we're going to have people physically in the studio with us. So unless people come to the studio and sit down on the futon, they're not going to be on the show.
And even then, there is a limit to the number of people who can be on the show at once, and it is a very small limit, like 4 or maybe 5. You know, once you get more people than that, it just becomes a disaster.
We basically have to train people up to be able to do a talk show.
Like, if you listen, there are some podcasts out there that have very large numbers of hosts. Like Comic Geek Speak can have 5 or 6 hosts, and then they'll get 2 guests. But the only reason it works is because they make like 4 shows a week, and all the hosts are always on the podcast all the time, so they're all good at it. We can have 10 Rims and Scotts on the podcast, you know. But if it's a Rim, a Scott, and then 5 people who aren't on podcasts all the time,
of course, the way around that is to set it up. I mean, I have the giant mixer here. I basically mute everyone, and I unmute people as I want to let them speak.
Yes, but even then, it takes a large amount of preparation and setting up. You know, it's not like, you know, they say, oh, it's overdue in the age of Skype. It's not that easy.
If you had the time and patience to enter a long-term period in which you would either learn or improve upon a skill, what would it be?
Learn or improve upon a skill.
I would become a musician again. I would get my trumpet skills back and probably just become a professional trumpet player again. I mean, that was, you know, I don't know how many listeners remember this. I flipped a coin between becoming a professional trumpet player or going to RIT and going into IT. Like, I didn't care. It was 50-50.
I don't know what skill I would pick, but it would definitely be a skill of making something that is physical, right? It's like I make softwares all the time, but it's like I really like making crafts. It could be, you know, and that's it could be like anything from like making cars to making little electronic things to making, you know, shirts to, you know, just making some blacksmithing, you know, just something that is making stuff. Boat making.
What about some white gold wielding?
White, you know, that's not making. It would be some skill in, you know, carpenting, cabinet making. It'd be some sort of skill in constructing something physical with my hands, and I would, basically I would become the master of whatever it was, like making desks or chairs or something, and then I'd make a whole bunch of them. That's what I
Though
would do.
one thing I am going to do now with all this extra free time is, I don't know, I'm either going to pick my trumpet back up or I'm going to practice my harmonica a lot more seriously.
Hooray, you're not in my apartment.
Well, you don't want to hear old Susanna 1,000 times in a row?
No. Well, that is another thing, is that I do, like, I don't have that much interest in music, but like I played the guitar when I was in 4th grade and 5th grade. But then when I went to middle school, I joined the middle school band, and guitar was not an option. So I chose clarinet, and I could not do 2 instruments at once, so I, put guitar down. And basically, I quit stupid band in 9th grade. Right? I basically played the clarinet for 4 years, and then I quit that. And so basically, since 10th grade, I regretted giving up the guitar in the first place, but I have never picked it up again. And, I didn't regret it that much, but when playing Guitar Hero, I regretted it much more. So it's like, I don't know, and then I said, oh, I'll get the harmonica. And if I have the wherewithal to actually practice this, then spending money on a guitar won't be a waste. But I didn't practice the harmonica, so I didn't buy a guitar. But maybe, I don't know.
Yep, we got some free time.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're right. That question was coming right up.
Yeah. Do you foresee outgrowing conventions?
Had we continued with our old convention policy, which was go to every freaking anime convention, I would have probably just given up on conventions.
I think
now.
the thing is I already have outgrown attending non-gaming conventions. Comic conventions are just places to shop. It's a big comic book store that's temporary. I have no interest in that because I buy online at a discount.
Well, the Mocha, but that's different.
Well, the Mocha's different. The anime conventions, I have outgrown going to them entirely, right?
I would argue we haven't. Imagine if we didn't go to any cons at all.
All right.
Otakon once a year, we could have a lot of fun at, I think, just attending.
But it's not that much fun. I'd just go to Anime Boston. It's closer and better.
Well, a anime convention.
Right.
Anime Boston, you're right.
But even so, it's like, and the only reason I would go is there's people I know there. If I didn't know anyone there, I wouldn't go.
I probably would. I used to go to conventions, like just me and Scott Johnson all the time back in the day.
Yeah, but the girls were much closer to your age at that point.
Yeah, it's funny how the girls got younger as I got older. It's not like they stayed the same age and I got older. It's that we diverged.
Yep.
But
they were 20, you were 20, but now you're 28 and they're 16.
Though. It's possible to outgrow anime cons just because the demographics were so squirrely. But all other conventions, look at sci-fi cons or gaming cons.
Yeah, I have no interest in a sci-fi con, but a gaming con I can never outgrow as long as I like games, because a gaming con is just a place to go and play games with people you don't know and games you've never played before. And as long as I'm a game fan, that will always be good. It cannot get old unless gaming itself also gets old.
Any con that either involves doing or that involves geeks who are my age intellectually. I mean, imagine if Otakon were 26,000 20 to 30-something-year-old techie punk kids.
Yep.
That Otakon would be the best thing ever. That's why PAX
Pretty good.
is the best thing ever, because it's that and it's a gaming con.
And there are other sorts of conventions, like, I guess like New York International Auto Show. It's like, it's cool to go and look at shiny cars, but do I really need to go? Not really. The CES is going on right now. I'd like to go to that maybe once in my life because it's so cool to see all new gadgets, but it's just a room full of fancy new gadgets.
But look at the question.
If you read Engadget.com, you can...
Do you foresee outgrowing conventions? And the answer is never, because at its core, all a convention is geography. Unless you live in a major city, geography limits your social life in a big way. I mean, you can do stuff online, but you go to conventions because it's a self-selected sample. The people who live in a particular area live there for all these concerns that might not be related to, shared interests, jobs, economy, all that stuff, family. But a convention is a self-selected sample of people who say, I'm into X, I'm going to go stay with all the other people who are into X and have a tiny geeky city for a weekend.
Yep.
By definition, all conventions are geeky because it's people who have a deep interest in something, or people who are being paid to go there by the company.
Yep.
Hanging out.
All right.
I think we should just do one more because this is a good question to end it on.
All right. If you had to give one piece of advice to punk kids, what would you tell them?
I'm going to say punk kids are 14 to 19-year-old kids who are otherwise a lot like we were when we were 14 to 19. My biggest piece of advice to you is that almost nothing you are doing right now matters for the rest of your life.
That was the same advice I was going to give, is that right now there are people telling you all sorts of lies, like your grades in high school or whatever school you're in are the most important thing in the world. If you get an F in like math or you get suspended once, your life is going to be ruined forever. You're not going to get to go right.
But that's all the old hat advice. We gotta have something more specific,
right? And the thing is, right, is that if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, and you want a big fancy one at that, yes, you probably do need to get all A's and go to Harvard or something to be the big fancy doctor lawyer. But doing poorly in school, is not going to ruin the rest of your life. You are going to, school is like this huge, huge thing. It just dominates your life, at least in the United States, for in the Western world, I guess, as a whole, for like 18 years of your life and maybe even through college. And then it's gone and you never have to think about it again. It's just gone. So as long as you gain the skills to live life, it doesn't actually matter the results in school unless the results in school themselves are necessary towards your goal of being a lawyer, doctor,
now, what I would say,
etc.
that's the rub. The real measure of school is knowing when things matter and when things don't. Once you can figure out what matters and what doesn't,
you're already there.
You're set for the rest of your life. I mean, in high school, right? Once you figure out what kinds of grades and, quote unquote extracurricular activities you need to get into the college you want to get into.
If you want to go to college, even.
But if you want to get into a certain college, figure out what you need, get that, and nothing else matters. A very specific piece of advice would be this. You get your diploma whether or not you walk. And mostly, if you do some crazy awesome prank as a senior, you still get your diploma. You just don't get to walk in that stupid ceremony that all the kids hate anyway. Pull the awesome fucking prank.
Yes.
Just do it.
Be that guy.
Just go for it.
And just don't do anything that will actually get you in jail.
Yes, do not do anything that will actually not get you your diploma.
Right.
Of course, I point out, no one ever asked for or saw my high school diploma.
Nope.
I don't even have one. I don't even know where it is.
I don't have. I might be somewhere. No one's ever gonna ask for. There's all these things like you think are so important, but they're not. I guess the advice can be summed up in look at your life as a whole. Look at long term. In the short term, when you're a kid, there's a lot of confusing and stuff that seems a lot more important than it really is. You need to look in the ultra long term of your whole life. What are you going to do for all these years? Look at that. And then you will be able to make much better decisions and live a much more fulfilling life as a whole.
And don't be afraid to try things and do crazy stuff. I mean, if there's a girl and she likes you, make out with her. It's high school. It doesn't matter as long as she doesn't have herpes.
Yeah, right? We said make out. We didn't say get it on.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.